Hello and welcome to the Turf and Touchdowns podcast, take 2, because I said episode 17 in the first time around. Episode 18, we're 100% sure of that. My name's Luke Elder, as always, joined by one of my least favourite cocktails, Tom Collins.
Right, normally I have a little bit of an issue with this intro. I'm firmly behind that. I hated Tom Collins' cocktail, arguably one of the worst ever in existence. And I know some people love gin. Gin is not for me. Actually, just a bit of a side note, we do like going off topic on this pod, but Correct. In a couple of weeks I've got a birthday party, not my own, one of my friends. And birthday parties, who still does those anyway? It is a 30th and it's in a gin distillery, which was awful news to me. But maybe there's a Tom Collins on the menu and I can try one again for the first time since I was going to say 17, 18.
I thought you were going to say 6. I was going to say, what was your childhood about?
I should provide some clarity there. 18, I was at university, and down at Brighton, I used to just whip out the ID, and there was this place in Brighton, this nightclub that used to give me free Tom Collinses because it was my name, which is why that was the last time I've had one, and I haven't had one since because it's just horrible.
If they're free, I can get on board with that.
Yeah, agreed.
I can drink/eat most things if it's free.
100%.
But in the gin distillery, I too am not a lover of gin, but pink gin, mix that with some lemonade.
Well, I've never had it before. The missus loves it. There's a big bottle in the cupboard there. I'm painting her out to be an awful person, but yeah, I might have to try it. Surely they sell some other kind of alcoholic beverage. I know it's a gin distillery, but it's got to be something else, surely.
I mean, you don't go to McDonald's and ask for a salad.
Well, no, but they do sell it.
Yeah, but they specialise in burgers.
Yeah, that is true.
Like, you go to a gin distillery, you got to try there. You got to sample their ware.
Yeah, well, I probably will. And after the first sample, it will be, no, thank you. Have you got anything else?
You got any Tom Collins just with Coke or something like that? Yeah, terrible cocktail. Speaking of going off topic, we've been watching the Olympics this week. What sport do you reckon in the Olympics you could just throw yourself into and not totally disgrace yourself? And I'm not talking as a case of, like, obviously you'd actually disgrace yourself in every single sport. Yeah. We all would. But in your mind, which one do you reckon you could keep up in?
Can I just clarify, by not disgracing yourself, do you mean not finishing last and obviously last?
Just mind-bogglingly embarrassing. Wherever you put that line.
Well, personally, I would say table tennis because I'm actually half decent. I'm not great, but I'm half decent. So I don't think I would lose 11-0, 11-0, 11-0, etc. Mind you, obviously, I would still lose in the first round. There's no doubt about it. But I think if you enter anything like swimming, athletics, obviously equestrian, I've never ridden a horse, archery, any of that stuff, you kind of have to be a specialist at it. And it's stuff that, obviously athletics and swimming, the bar's very high, but the likes of archery, equestrian, shooting, if you've never done it before, you're going to stink first time up. I feel like everyone's at least played table tennis once or twice before. And I know you're never going to be at the level of the Chinese, but at the same time, you've got to be able to win a point, no?
I don't know. It goes back to the odd argument of, do you reckon you could gain a yard in the NFL? Or something like that.
That, by the way, and we're going massively off topic. Keep this very short, but there was a question that's saying, can you gain 5 yards in 10 rushes? I think that's absolutely certain. You're putting there with an offensive line. I mean, how's that even a question? They'll gain you the yards. You just got to run forward. I do think most people, if you've played table tennis and you're okay to relatively good for an average person, you'd be able to win maybe 1 point, not against the world's best, but against 30th seed, etc.
I'd be praying for the unforced error.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
My mention was hockey, but then I also feel that's cheating because you've got a team to fall back on.
100%. Again, I was about to say that it's definitely cheating. You can't have that. I think it's got to stick to individuals.
I would go badminton.
Yeah, you're quite good at badminton, though. You're handy.
Yeah, I reckon badminton, I could at least get a point. If it's the first point, I would milk that for all it's worth. Like, I'd be in the crowd, yeah, go.
Withdraw due to injury after that first point. And technically, you're the moral winner.
Oh, I was gonna take gold. Someone in the office the other day suggested wrestling.
No, absolutely no chance. I'm sorry.
It's like, would you like to die? No. Okay, well, don't do that then. Shall we look back on last week?
Let's.
Because speaking of winning, we're back. We're back on that front. 1-2 for us in the Gim Dandy. Fierceness got the better of Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone. he Sierra Leoned it.
Yeah, I'm a bit gutted because I've been saying all year that I won't put up Sierra Leone for any race because I don't think he'll win one. I changed my mind for this race. I thought he ran very well and was given a great ride. But Fierceness was just the better horse. There were no excuses. Flavian went to the inside on Sierra Leone, which is kind of what my whole angle was, which I thought was outside the box, but it actually came true. So I can't have any quips or negativity towards the ride or the performance. Fierceness was going away at the line in the final 2 strides, so you can't say that Sierra Leone left the challenge too late. And the pace was relatively strong. It wasn't as strong as I necessarily thought. I think on the pod last week I said 47 flat was my guess through the first half, and it ended up being 47 and 2/5. So 0.44 seconds over what I anticipated. That wouldn't have made a difference even if they went 47 flat. I think Fierceness would have kicked clear and still won. So it was good that you got the winner on the board. Well done for that. I'm back to my theory now that Sierra Leone won't win a race this year, but at least the podcast is back in form.
Talk to me about Fierceness. Have you changed your mind on him going forward? Will he be a bet in any races for you?
I'm not dead against him like I will be Sierra Leone. However, he seems to run one good, one bad in that order. Next time it looks like they're going towards the Travers with him because, was it him or was it Mindframe? I think it's him. Anyway, one of the two has picked up an injury. If they do go towards the Travers, he won't be a play to me. Even towards the Breeders' Cup Classic or any race like that, he's not a play. So he'll have to be found a nice spot for me to want to side with him. But he's obviously very talented. And if he just got rid of that consistent inconsistency, if that makes sense, then he would be one of the best horses in the country. But at this stage, he's just very unpredictable.
Yeah, for sure. I think Saratoga is his track. I like him there, but I don't necessarily think he'd win a Travers. What I did like last week is that both of our analysis of both runner, they were both correct. You said you want to see Sierra Leone to go to the front. I was saying about Fierceness, I don't really want him surrounded by horses, and John Velasquez took him 3 wide. I said I didn't really mind if he wasn't on the lead, and he wasn't on it. He wasn't setting the pace, but he was 3 wide, just sitting close to it. So we got that part right. Thankfully, Fierceness came out on top with Sierra Leone. If he did the reverse forecast or box exacta, whichever way you are inclined, you will have got it the right way round for the more valuable side of things. So well done to you on that part. That was a look back at the Gim Dandy. This week we're looking at Saratoga once again. We've got the Grade 1 Whitney Stakes coming up, which we've got a decent field. The first thing to mention, we normally talk about pace over at Saratoga or any American race. Let's talk about the weather first, because all races were off turf last night. Wouldn't affect this anyway because we're talking about a dirt race, but it's meant to be sort of sustained showers throughout the course of the week.
Yeah, there was a big weather delay actually last night as well between race 8 and 9 or something similar to that because the incoming weather was so bad. There was thunderstorms expected that they delayed the racing. Obviously off turf, as you said, and the main track was playing sloppy. Now, Thursday and Friday, we're recording this Thursday morning, so we haven't seen Thursday's racing in Saratoga. But Thursday and Friday is expected to be relatively dry. There are scattered showers. But Saturday doesn't look great from a weather perspective. So I think there'll be a sloppy main track at Saratoga for the Whitney. And all turf races, keep a lookout for race day changes. I think they'll leave the big graded races on, the likes of the Saratoga Derby, where we have Legend of Time, Diego Velasquez, etc. A couple of the other turf races as well. I think it's the Troy, where Cogburn's entered. But some of the undercard might be taken off turf. And when it gets to dirt, I think we'll be dealing with an off track, a sloppy track.
Yeah, just looking now, today, which is Thursday, and Friday, they're 32 degrees Celsius. That's going to be lovely, and the track will dry out quite nicely. But Saturday, as Tom mentions, it is rain and thunderstorms. So
yeah,
hopefully things are okay over at Saratoga. But moving into things, we'll talk about the pace now. You've got National Treasure in a race. There's your leader.
Yeah, it looks like he'll be on the front end. He's the only proper out-and-out burner in the field, and he's drawn inside in 3. So it looks like the plan is just to go forward, grab the rail, and dominate from the outset. We saw him lead at a fast pace in the Belmont last year, and obviously he went very close in the early stages in the Pegasus World Cup and ended up holding off his rivals despite very fast fractions. So we know that he can sustain efforts going quick on the front end. Maybe Arthur's Ride will be the closest to him early. Skippy Longstocking will be up there. There are a couple of others that like to be near the speed, but National Treasure just looks the obvious play to be on the front. Now, the first 3 weeks of Saratoga, there was barely any rain. The kickback was fierce. And actually in the third week, so last week, front runners weren't holding up it seemed like it was hugely closer biased, that it was really deep track, especially towards the inside. And if you were leading against the fence, it was a big disadvantage. But with the rain coming in this week, obviously on Wednesday and expected on Saturday, that could turn around and we could see a front runner bias come to the fruition here. So just keep an eye out on that.
We talk about front running biases, and I mean, we'll jump in with National Treasure. We'll start off with him. He won the Met Mile last time when it was obviously relocated to Saratoga. One of the biggest front running biases you'll ever see at Saratoga for the Belmont meet. I mean, we were talking just before the race, and I said to you, "Is this not the biggest certainty that you will ever see in your entire life?" I can't remember who was the other horse in there that was against National Treasure.
Honestly, can't remember because he won by so far that I kind of forgot about any other horse that was in the race. I think his winning margin was 8.5 lengths or something similar to that. But yeah, it was a huge bias, wasn't it?
The only rival was effectively a closer. It was White Abario, obviously.
White Abario.
So he was one that was coming from a fair way back. National Treasure just could not lose that horse race. There was no tactical point of view where National Treasure couldn't win that race. I think, yes, good job, you've won grade 1, but this is going to be so much tougher for him. I also think he's an out-and-out miler as well. I don't really want him going a yard further than the mile. 9 furlongs for me, that's a bit of a stretch for National Treasure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes in the market prior to the race, because David Aragona's put him in at 9-5 on the morning line, which is probably fair given his achievements in his career. However, he is just 4 from 13 in terms of winning strike rate. So he's not the most prolific. He's won some good races, including the Met Mile, the Pegasus World Cup. But he doesn't win every single start, if that makes sense. He's not bomb-proof. He's definitely vulnerable. And when you factor in other things, like the fact it might not be a front-runner bias, the fact that in this race he could face pace pressure from the likes of Arthur's Ride, who's really developed into this front-running sort, the fact that he's only run twice on a sloppy track, and if it becomes sloppy, it's got to be considered a big negative, because in those 2 efforts, he's finished 5th and 4th. He hasn't won a race on a track like this. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes in the market. Definitely keep an eye on the weather. I'm against him, but obviously he's very talented, and he could get an easy time of things up front, in which case he would be very dangerous.
Yeah, I'll just defend my point as well. He won the Pegasus 3 starts ago now, which obviously is over the same trip as this. Again, massive front-running bias at Gulfstream. He can get away with it when there's a front-running bias like that, but we were talking in that race about how well Senor Buscador ran because he came from off the pace. But this is going to be a lot tougher than what National Treasure is used to. First Mission and Skippy Longstocking, 2 horses that we already spoke about in this podcast so far this year. First Mission bombed out last time in the Stephen Foster. I thought he ran an absolutely terrible race for his standards. Skippy Longstocking, we spoke afterwards. I still think it was an absolutely dreadful ride from Jose Ortiz, and I'm still not sure what he was doing. But the sort of blueprint for this race is pretty sort of similar. Sit handy, probably 3rd off the back of Arthur's Ride and National Treasure, and then try and kick at the right time and prove that you're the best horse.
Yeah, agreed on that count. The Stephen Foster is obviously a key trial to this year's Whitney. However, I haven't looked around back at all horses who had run in the Stephen Foster and then ran in the Whitney, but I looked at winners of the Stephen Foster going into the Whitney, and only 2 horses since the year 2000 have won the Stephen Foster and the Whitney, and they were Blame, who was obviously a fantastic horse, beat Zenyatta at the Breeders' Cup, and Gumrunner, again, a fantastic horse, 2017 champion. So it takes a good animal to win both races. Now, I know neither First Mission or Skippy Longstocking won the Stephen Foster, but both were considered major players. Skippy Longstocking went close despite the ride not being great. First Mission disappointed. I think they've got similar chances. Skippy Longstocking is not going to get to the front here. We'll probably sit off, which shouldn't be too much of a negative, but at the same time, it's not the ideal way of racing for this horse. And First Mission, he handles off going, so if it does get sloppy, he'll be a big player. If it's a fast main track, I can't have him because he's just too inconsistent at this level.
Yeah, I get your point regarding the off-track. I think he's a better horse when others are slowed down a touch. He's not a horse that necessarily wants a wet track, but he's a horse that is helped out by the others just finding life a little bit tougher. We'll keep on the Stephen Foster because I wanted to get your thoughts on Disarm, a horse that you were, I wouldn't say keen on last time around, but willing to take a chance on. The race wasn't run to suit him at all, but even so, I thought it was a very lackluster effort.
Yeah, I didn't like it, to be honest. He obviously suffered a major injury towards the back end of last season, and He came back this year with a promising effort, and I wanted to see something good from him in Stephen Foster, and we just didn't. We didn't see it. He made a nice mid-race move up the inside to get into contention, but from there he was very one-paced. He's drawn well, but I think that's the only positive I've got for him in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move on to one of the more interesting runners in the contest. Also, still a touch left field. He's 5-1 on the morning line. Bright Future. Now, he sort of still falls under the category of could be anything. I know he bombed out a touch in the Breeders' Cup Classic, which I still don't really think was a very good race. But he came back and ran in the Salvatore Mile over at Monmouth, had a lovely setup, a strong pace to aim at, and he really returned with a bang.
Yeah, I like this horse. He's a fascinating runner in here as well. As you said, we don't know exactly where his ceiling is. He's unexposed. He's 5 from 9 in his career. I thought he ran nicely in the Classic to take 5th, considering how far back he was in the early part of the race. The predominant horses at the end were in that kind of stalking role, where he was the big closer from the back of the pack. He was still a raw horse at that point too. He's super impressive off the layoff, but if you watch the race from the home turn, he looked done. And then suddenly he found a 5th and 6th gear and powered through late. So that was what you like to see with a horse first time up off the layoff when not fit. They took a blow and then they went again and won the event. Obviously, this is much tougher, so he does have to prove that he's capable of beating horses like this. But Todd Pletcher at Saratoga in races like the Whitney, I don't think there are any better trainers. And this horse, I think, is more than capable of winning Grade 1s this year. If he handles the slop, then I'll bet him. If it's a fast main track, I'll definitely bet him. As well as one other who we'll touch on in a minute. But he's the horse I like. He's 2 from 2 lifetime at Saratoga as well, which is a big plus.
Yeah, that was going to be on my next link in to some sort of selection. I assume that's Bright Future for you. Who was the other horse that you wanted to give a shout to?
Yeah, Bright Future is my main pick. As I've already touched on, I think the form's there and he's still open to improvement. The slop would be a concern if it does get wet up in New York. The other horse I'm keen on, and this is more in a thought process of if it is a sloppy main track, then I'm not too keen on Bright Future, albeit I'll bet him. So I want another one. If it's a fast main track, I won't bet this horse, and that's Croupy. Now, I know he's a big price. He probably doesn't have the quality of some of these horses, but he gets Ariad Ortiz, which is a big plus. He won at Saratoga 2 starts back when he was nice. He performed nicely that day against weaker opposition. He's just a plodder. He plugs on. He's got off-track form. He goes well at this venue. Todd Pletcher again, I love in the race like this. So I think he's 15-1 on the morning line. Probably go off around 20-1 in the UK. I probably have an each way bet on Croupy as well, just in case the whole race collapses if it turns into a wet track. But Bright Future is my main pick.
Yeah, I get that. I like the Bright Future shout. I think he's one of the horses that was high on my shortlist as well, but there's still one or two question marks for me. I'm sticking loyal. I'm staying with Skippy Longstocking, who I don't like the ride Jose Ortiz gave him last time around. He did everything right in the first part of the race because he stumbled a little bit coming out of the stalls. He rushed him up. He got him in the firing line, which they set a pretty pedestrian pace, which allowed Kingsbarns, the horse that we sort of labelled as a sprinting type beforehand, to sprint past them and go on. But Jose Ortiz just didn't kick. And for whatever reason, he just let Kingsbarns come up sides. It looked like he was going to cut him off, but Jose Ortiz reacted to it like it already happened. And then he ran on again, couldn't get past Pyrenees back in second place. But I think Skippy Longstocking is a horse that's very live in this. He's in the morning line 8-1. That's wrong. He ought to be about a 4-1 chance in this, maybe 5-1 around that. If he's any sort of an each way price at all, I wouldn't be against that whatsoever. He's ran on a wet track twice in his life as well, and he's won both of them, albeit at a much lesser level than this. So keep that part in mind. But I think Skippy Longstocking, he ticks a lot of boxes in this, Tom.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes close. You'd expect a little bit better ride this time on Skippy, but it's just a pace scenario that I don't love. But if he's in the top 3, it wouldn't surprise me. He's quite clearly got a lot of talent. He's not a horse that I've been with, I don't think, at any point in his career. Especially, I think he made his reappearance at Tampa this year off a really bad run at Gulfstream. And I said, I don't know if this horse has still even got it anymore. And he won that day. Maybe he'll go and win this. He's not a horse I love, but I know you've got an affinity for him. And hopefully it gives you a good run for your money.
Yeah, to be fair, he's a horse I've rarely backed. But you know those horses that you just like?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because the first time I saw him, I saw a horse good. Oh, Skippy Longstocking. That's cute. But literally, I've loved him ever since. But I think he's ripe to win a big race like this. So Skippy Longstocking for myself, Bright Future for Tom. in the Whitney, and a shout from Tom as well towards Croupy. Do keep on top of things regards to how the track is playing and how much rain actually falls over at Saratoga on the day. We'll see if they mess around with anything on the turf side of things. Just one more horse to watch out for over at Saratoga for the Saturday card. The Belmont, nope, that was last time. The Saratoga Derby is effectively the Belmont Derby this year. That's run as race 7, Grade 1 company. Legend of Time was already over there for Charlie Appleby. Diego Velazquez is being sent over by Aidan O'Brien. Really hope this race exists and it is run on turf. I think they'll do everything they possibly can to get this race run on turf. But Royal Majesty, he's in the market as a 12-1 morning line. That's just too big. His 2 runs, or 2 latest runs, both over at Aqueduct, Belmont, and the Big A, they've not suited him at all. They went a crawl in the Pennine Ridge when behind Legend of Time, and was behind Trickery and White Palomino last time, and Legend of Time when, again, they went a crawl in the Belmont Derby. Now, he is going to get a better pace to aim at in this spot. You've got White Palomino in there once again, Cugino, Ryan Moore generally would be a bit more proactive going over to the US. I just think so long as 8 horses remain in this, I think Royal Majesty is a really solid each way play. He is a horse that could absolutely win this race, but I think he's one that you've sort of been with in the past as well, Tom. And this year, it's just not worked out for him so far.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll leave it as that because I will be previewing the race on Sky Sports, but I think there are far worse double-figure price horses on that card, and providing the 8 runners stand up, he's a great each-way play.
Yeah, that's the thing. I wouldn't be trying to bet him too early, because if you bet him at 12-1 with 3 places, great bet. If that then goes down to 7 runners and he goes into 8-1, I wouldn't really be so keen on that side of things. But you can, with bookmakers, manipulate your bets a touch and try and place only and win them and sort of do your own thing. But Tom's going to be on Sky Sports Racing on Saturday. Here's your late presenter, Tom.
It's Mr. Luke Elder, from 10 p.m. So if you are interested in the Whitney and you've enjoyed this podcast, please, and you've got Sky Sports Racing, of course, please tune in from 10 p.m. because we'll be obviously providing all our picks for the cards elsewhere, away from Saratoga. And then as we get towards the Whitney at 10:52 or something like that, 10:42, whenever it is, we'll obviously touch on the podcast and all of our thoughts on all the horses, as we've already mentioned.
42. Yeah. If you've watched this preview of the Whitney and thought, you know what, that was real good, just come watch it again. We're doing it all on Sky Sports Racing. It's fine.
And crucially, we'll be able to give live, up-to-date thoughts based on the track condition, which is why you should tune in. Obviously, here we've given some ifs and buts just in case of the weather, but we'll know officially then, just leading up to the race, what will happen.
Absolutely. 100%, unless it starts raining like half an hour before, then we're all going to be shocked. But if you have enjoyed this preview of the Whitney, if you backed a winner last week, then let us know in the comments below. Thank you everyone who commented last week and gave us their thoughts. We are recording an NFL video in a moment.
Hence the t-shirt and the hat.
Well, the hat's just because I've got messy hair.
Yeah, well, mine's bad, to be fair. Absolute desperation mode for a barber, but that's why the t-shirt's out anyway.
Yeah, okay. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe to us as well. You'll be notified of everything that we do. We are stepping up the NFL previewing now as well. If you are an NFL fan, come say hi to us over on that part. Tom's going to leave the link just up here. Last time he pointed up there. It wasn't. It was up there. But we won't leave that. We'll just breeze past that one. But that's what we're going to do right now. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. We are on Twitter as well, at Turf Touchdowns, and on all other social medias, at Turf and Touchdowns. But for episode 18, that's us done. We'll see you next week, or we'll see you on Saturday on Sky Sports Racing. Until we next speak to you, stay safe, look after one another. Goodbye.